If you've ever wanted to record your own music but think it's too complicated or don't know where to start, this video is made exactly for you. By the way, my name's Luca. I'm a professional music production instructor and I teach music artists and bands to record their own music. First, we do need some gear. I have a full video that goes through every different budget. I'll have a link to that at the end of the video. I'm just going to put it really simply. All that we need is something to capture audio. This is called a microphone. There's heaps of them out there. You can even use your phone. Next, we need something for the microphone to talk to our computer. This is called an audio interface. Essentially, it's the link so you can actually plug your microphone into your computer. And then we need something on our computer where we can control and manipulate the sound. This is called a DAW or digital audio workstation. Some examples are Ableton, Fruit Loops, Pro Tools, Reaper. The list goes on and on. I'm using Ableton. It's great because there's a free trial and it's a super powerful software. Like I mentioned before, at the end of the video, I'm going to have a link to a different video where I go through how to get Ableton for as cheap as possible and all different types of gear. Let's just jump straight in. So once you've opened up Ableton, just click the button in the top right or press tab to open up the arrangement view. This is where we're going to be spending most of our time. For this video, I'm going to record my guitar and then produce it up like a song. This is my process when I'm recording my own music. I'm just going to delete all of the MIDI tracks just so there's one audio. It's a lot simpler to look at. Let me just go get a guitar really quick. I've plugged my guitar into my audio interface and it's in channel 2, so you can select 2, tell it that we want it to be auto and then turn the record arm on. That means we're going to be able to hear the guitar. A really great feature about Ableton, if you come over to audio effects, scroll down and put on a tuner, you can just tune up like that. The first thing we want to do is set the right tempo for Ableton. The way you can do that, if you know what the BPM is, you can choose this number up here. Otherwise, you can just click the tap button for how fast or slow you want it to be. For example, mine's about this fast. Okay, let's go for about 132. And then you can click this button to turn the metronome on. Now, all that's left to do is press record and play it. Cool, so I've recorded it in. You can see this first half I kind of messed up and I know I started playing it right there. So I'm just going to click and select it and press delete on my keyboard. Now, if you move your mouse to the top of the bar, it'll become a little grabby hand. You can click it and then press spacebar to hear it. Right now, that sounds kind of dry, not the best. This is the #1 trick to make stuff sound awesome, especially if you have average gear. What we're going to do, right click over here, insert audio track. I'm recording my guitar, which is number 2, and then tell Ableton I want to record this channel. And what I'm going to do is just record the exact same thing. If you select this bar and make it as big as the bit you're recording, and then click this button up here, it's going to loop back and forth, so you can just keep trying over and over. So I got it first try then, and you can see it's recorded over. All you have to do is bring your mouse to the top of the second bit, click, and then move it over. Now, if I turn my looper off, this is what we have so far. Cool, so you can hear it's kind of phasing, it's sounding a bit weird. This is the secret sauce. Come over to the right and turn 1 all the way to the right and then 1 all the way to the left. What we've done there is panned one of the guitars so it's coming out of the left speaker and then one of the guitars so it's coming out of the right speaker. This is the best way to create space really easily, and let's have a listen to it now. Okay, so just like that, we have it sounding awesome, but it still sounds a bit dry. Let's add some effects. What I'm going to do, click one of the audio tracks, hold down Control and click the other one. Then you can right click and group tracks. Now, what we have here is a group. So whatever effects we add onto the group is going to affect both of them. So you can even right click, rename guitar group. Guitar right and guitar left. Okay, now on the group, the first thing I'm going to do is add some reverb. So you just click and drag it onto the group. If you're a bit unfamiliar with how to make reverb sound nice, you can click this little arrow and it's going to open up a whole bunch of different reverb presets that you can try. And this is just the stock Ableton reverb. I do have a VST, which is essentially a plugin I've bought from somewhere else, and I can just put it on the group. I really like how this sounds, and I'm going to use Valhalla Vintage Verb. Put it on. And I'm going to turn my mix to about around 30, about 2.5 seconds of decay. Now, to take things to the next level, we're going to add compression. If you go into Audio Effects and then scroll until you find Compressor, Ableton has some awesome compression presets. You can have a look through there. You just drag it on and see what it sounds like. Compress before the reverb. I'm going to use a plugin called Magma Stress Box. This was free a while ago and it's really cool. I've put it before my reverb. So whenever we're adding effects onto Ableton, it works left to right. So whatever effect you have first on the left is going to change the sound before the next effects will affect it. So if I had reverb first, I'm compressing the reverb tail, which might be good in some stances, but what I want to do is compress it first and then add reverb to the compression. So to get the compression right, I'll just turn the reverb off and have a play. And then with the reverb back on. If you do have a full song, I recommend just recording the full thing a few takes and then you can cut between the best takes. Now I'm going to add some drums. In Ableton, if you go over to drums, there's a whole bunch of different kits here, which are pre-made kits like this. So you can go through, if you hear a kit you like, you can use that. Otherwise, you can use samples. You can find these if you just type in free sample pack on Google. There's so many, you can just download them. Ableton has a few good ones as well. So if you come up to kick, you can just have a listen to kicks. And if you find one you like, you click and drag it into the empty space. And this is what that sounds like. Cool. Now I'm going to add a snare. So if you come up to the top, click snare, have a listen. Perfect. And then just drag it on. Now you can see this one starts a bit late, so I'm just lining it up with the line. And I'm going to stack a few so it just sounds a bit better. So now I've got a kick and a snare. I'm going to make a pattern that sounds cool. To do that, hold Control and mouse wheel just to zoom in. I'm going to shorten the kick so I can move it around more. And then let's see what we can come up with. Okay, I've got a kick and a snare pattern I like. Let's have a listen to it. Cool, we're getting somewhere now. I don't like how this kick is sounding. So what I'm going to do, click onto the track, and then I'm going to scroll over to Audio Effects and find an EQ8, and then just drag it onto my kick. And let's have a listen to how the kick sounds. There's a bit too much air in there for me. So what I'm going to do is grab number 3, turn up the Q, down. Cool, and then I'm also going to take out a little bit of this bass. Perfect, and just to make things look a bit better, I'm going to make the drums red by right-clicking, selecting a color, and then assign track color to clips. You can hear that the kick kind of sounds like it's underwater, and I like that, so I'm going to do the same with the snares, just by selecting both, putting them in a group, and then adding an EQ 8, and turning down the high end a bit. Perfect. Now this is a really good example of something to watch out for. Whenever you add something into your song, there's going to be so much mud in the low frequencies. If you don't know what that means, don't worry about it, but do this. If I press play, you can see there's so much movement happening on this end of the EQ. It's a snare, we don't need that at all. So what we're going to do is just turn this to X4 and cut it out. You know you've done it right if you can't really hear a difference on the snare, but you can see a visual difference. What that means is we cut out all the mud. It's not affecting how it sounds. Now what I'm going to do next is just add a little bit of a reverb. Instead of dragging it straight on like this, I'm going to use a return channel. You can see down here we have A reverb and B delay. These come with every Ableton project, and you can turn it on by simply just turning up this slider here. And just like that, we've added reverb to our snare. Now, to make this drum beat really come together, we're going to add some hi-hats. Like I mentioned before, if you're on Google or on the internet, you can find hi-hats samples, and there should be loops, one-shots. You can just drag it in. There's heaps of free ones and really high quality ones. Some other ways to go about it is Splice. I think they have a monthly subscription and they have so many samples that you can just use. Just for the sake of this video, I'm going to use the ones that are already in Ableton. So come over to drums, turn off snare, let's turn on hi-hats, and I'm just going to have a listen to what we have. I just got really sick of looking for one, so I'm going to use a plugin called Addictive Drums. Addictive Drums 2, just drag it into the empty space, and then on the left you can select what drum kit you like. So I'm kind of going for something electronic on the drums, but I really like the acoustic sort of real sounding hi-hats. I'm going to use this one. And then if you're using a MIDI instrument, which is just short for musical instrument digital interface, all you have to do is select the area you want it to be on, right click, insert empty MIDI clip. Now you'll see something pop up down here. You can click and drag to make it bigger. And this is essentially a piano roll. So if you click these headphones, you'll be able to hear all of the notes. And just like that, I've got all my hi-hats. Now we're pretty much going to follow the same process, but you just double click to place a note. Okay, so I've just made a super simple hi-hat pattern, and it sounds a bit obnoxious. So how we're going to fix that is something called velocity. Essentially, it's a digital way of saying how hard you're hitting the note or playing the thing. So you can see these blue dots down here. If you click it and drag it, the lower it is, the quieter it's going to be, and the higher it is, the louder it's going to be. So if I just make every second one a lot quieter, you can hear it just adds so much more groove and feel to it. So that's just so much more groovy. I'm just going to copy it. Control D to duplicate. And then these hi-hats overall are too loud. So if you come over to the right to this blue slider, you can just click and drag to turn it down. And then I'm going to add some reverb to the hi-hats. Okay, my camera's about to die, so I'm going to turn it off, transfer the file, and then we'll keep going. Okay, I've just fixed my camera battery. We're back in action. Okay, so we're getting somewhere now. Next, I'm going to add some bass. To make room for the bass, what I'm going to do is just cut out the low end of these guitars. So if we jump on the guitar group, this is a Pro Q3. It's pretty similar to the Ableton one. It's just better to visualize for this video. So let's have a listen to the guitars. So you can hear around here is pretty much making no sound. It's just adding mud. So what I'm going to do is just turn it down. Perfect. Now let's find a bass we like. So I think I want something sort of piano-y. So I'm just going to try this. I'm just going to drag a regular piano on and just see what we've got. Okay, I'm happy with that, how that sounds. If you have a bass, you can just record it in. My bass is broken, so I'm just going to stick with this for now. What I am going to do though is just make it a bit more growly by going to audio effects. And let's get a saturator and just turn the drive up and the output down. Cool, we're getting somewhere now, and then let's put some compression on the bass. So just on the left, scroll until we find compression. I'm going to try a gentle squeeze. We've got some stuff carrying the middle section with the guitars, and then we've got some percussion and we've got some bass, but we want something that kind of gets stuck in our head and that drives the song. So I'm going to add some sort of lead instrument. What I'm actually going to do is just record it with guitar. So I'm just going to play around, find something I like, and then I'll record it in. Okay, so I found a lead line, but you can hear it's kind of out of time. If I wanted, I could just go through and record it again, but just for the sake of this video, I'm going to show you how to quantize audio. So if you double click it, it's going to bring up the waveform here. You can Control A to select it all, and then Control U to auto quantize it. Now you can hear that's way more on the grid, but Ableton kind of added some artifacts and made it sound a bit weird. So all you have to do to get rid of that is come over to the left and change where it says beats to complex. It's just different modes of how Ableton works with audio. Complex is the most accurate. And now you can't tell that I didn't record it out of time. Sick. I'm just going to change how that guitar is actually sounding by adding some distortion to it. Cool, we're getting somewhere now, but it's sounding a bit flat. So what I'm going to do is just add some more compression. I'm going to group all of the drums together. And then on the drum group, let's add a compressor. So this is before the compressor. And then after. You can hear it's just a bit more vibrant. So this guitar lead I added is sounding a bit weird. I'm going to go into audio effects and grab an amp and get rid of the saturator. And then we can mess with the tone a little bit more here. Nice, now it's sounding less recognizable. That's what I wanted. And then I'll chuck an EQ on after the amp and just shape the tone a little bit. Perfect, now I'm getting somewhere where I want it to be. I'm going to add another lead line and pan left and right again like we did with the main guitar. I reckon it's just going to fill up the space so much more, and once we've done that, I'm excited to listen to it. Nice, I like that. Let's have a listen. What I've done is just turn that way down. It means there's a lot more space for everything else. You can barely hear it, but you know it's there and it makes a big difference. So this is without it. And then with it. So you can hear it's there, it's taking up space, but it's not overcrowding it, and it's just filling in the gap. Now I'm going to add some synth chords in the background. Right click, insert new MIDI track, and then in your instruments you can just go through and find the synth that you like. What I really like is this plugin that I have called Omnisphere. Okay, so I found a sound I like, and if you press this button up here in the top right, you can actually use your keyboard as a piano. And then if you play something you like, you don't actually have to record it. You can just press this square up here. Let me show you what I mean. So I've just played it out and then press this square and it brings it back from the dead. Let's have a listen to how everything is sounding together now. Nice, I'm happy with that. Now what I'm going to do is build out a bit of structure. So if I turn this looper off, what we can do is just select everything, move it over a bit, and now we have space to play with before we come into this. So a good place to start is probably the guitars. So let's just duplicate them over. And then maybe let's just add some kicks every beat. And then let's put this synth in the background. Cool, so we've got a bit of structure, but what I want to do is make it transition from the verse into the chorus. So the easiest way to do this is a bit of a hack. Let's find a cymbal. So let's go to drums, cymbals, and then have a listen for a loud, long cymbal. Okay, cool. So I found one I like. What we're going to do is click and drag it on. So when we get into the chorus, this is going to happen. Okay, it's just kind of telling your ears, different section. But where the magic is, if you hold Control and drag it to the side, so we've duplicated it, press R on your keyboard. You just have to make sure this MIDI note selector is off, and then get rid of the first transient. Now let's have a listen to this. And just like that, we have an awesome transition. What I'm going to do now is just turn the camera off. I'm going to write some vocals, record it in, and then I'll be back. All right, so I've just gone away. I've written some words. I've recorded them in and added some backing vocals. If you want a video on how to process vocals, let me know, but I won't go into it in this one. Otherwise it will be way too long. So I've got my main vocals here and here, and then these are just doubles to make it sound bigger, and then harmonies down here. Let's have a listen to how that sounds. One thing I did forget to mention is I sped the song up a lot just because it would fit the vocals a bit more. I recorded the vocals when it was slower and then I sped it up. That's why there's some artifacts and some weird things. If I was going to release this, of course, I would record the vocals again. And I recorded it on a $50, $60 microphone. So I just use this for example's sake because it still sounds pretty good and it's just a $50 microphone. Thanks so much for watching, and as I said, there's going to be a link right now, and if you click off, you can go and discover all the gear that I recommend to get started on different budgets.